Hey, everybody. Welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You're here with Jane and Mark on June 28th. Today is week 4, right? So we're in our last final few days of week 4, the return, and it is the month of heroes and quests. So it's been a very heavily masculine powered month in terms of energy wise. And we saw the moon the other day, but we got to see the
Right.
masculine adoring the moon. You know, the Japanese poets that adore the moon. And then we
Yeah.
got to see the moon fall in love with the beautiful masculine, you know?
Mhm.
So even when we see strongly feminine entities, deities, symbolism, it's still attached to the masculine somehow because everything has both connected to it.
Mhm.
Within them, outside of them, those energies are always flowing. They require
Yeah.
each other. You know, it's not 50-50. You know, sometimes it's 99 and 1, you
Yeah.
know?
Just
But
depends on the situation for sure.
yeah, and we got to see that. And today with our Pathfinder, right? This is another fun thing I really like. And as we're getting to the end of the month, I'm starting to remember a little bit more of some of the notes I had when I was building this month. And with that masculine, it was the month of the Pathfinder because, you know, that hero, that leader wasn't always leading. They weren't always, I know what I have, or I'm confident in what I can do. They had to find their path at one point.
Mhm.
So this was a Hero's Quest month, yes, but it's specifically the Pathfinder within the masculine. So I thought that was just kind of fun as we're really starting to feel it towards the end. And today we get to see, I don't know, I just liked reading the stories today and kind of feeling and watching your body language. And I
Mhm.
could tell you really enjoy the stories, and you even said it afterwards.
Yeah, no, they were definitely good, and I was glad I got to actually hear them today.
Yeah, so the stories today, the topic is the offering, and our theme is gratitude.
Mhm.
So remember how I said it's the offering, and you're like, well, it's not just that. And I kind of just let you speak because that's exactly what it was. It was gratitude. It wasn't just
Yeah.
giving something. That's not what offerings are.
Right.
You know, offerings aren't just about here's the payment,
Yeah.
because then it would be payment.
Exactly.
Right? It wouldn't be an offer. But our lesson is giving completes our journey. Our journey cannot come to its completion without some sort of way for us to give back.
Mhm.
Right? We see all these people on the way. We're there to get help. Sometimes we give help. Sometimes we get to sit and just be. And then there are other moments where we need to, through action and like verbalization, say what we are grateful for, show
Yeah.
what we are grateful for, acknowledge it. But it's not just, oh, yeah, I know that they know I'm grateful for them. No, we have to take the time. We got to take the time to say it, to show it, you know? And I just love that whole idea of it's the same with, well, they know I love them. When was the last time you said it though?
Mhm.
People can know without a doubt, but there's still the power of showing
Yeah,
and
for
saying
sure.
to people. And so that's what today gives us. So we're going to see that through Hawaiian, Roman, Shinto, and Akan folklore today. But I wanted to look back at the one that you specifically, well, that we both specifically were like ears perked up kind of
Mhm.
thing. But let me just find the quote.
Do, 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 and do, and do, don't
Okay.
do's, don't.
So this is, and I think it's a perfect representation of all the stories and what we were just talking about.
Mm.
So it's the father in one of the stories today. In story 3, you'll see he talks about how the offering is not payment, right? Kind of how we just said. But the offering is not payment. The earth does not sell us its blessings. The rain does not demand a price. We give because gratitude must be expressed if it is to remain alive. They may know, people may know, but that energy slowly fades because it's not getting that food, right? That source.
Yeah.
The love can be there, but that appreciation, that gratitude has to also be there.
Right.
We can't say we got to appreciate ourselves. Yeah, appreciate ourselves all the time and then forget to appreciate our partner
Yeah.
or our children.
Right.
or our friends or our stranger or our enemy who taught us a lesson, our
Mhm.
enemy for the day, whatever it may
Yeah,
be.
right.
But with that, the question for today is, what do I give back? So I kind of thought it was interesting today, because we're doing the episode a little bit in the afternoon again. But we took one of the Earth's offerings today, right? So dandelions are an offering from the Earth,
Yeah,
right? And people are starting to see that, wow, they actually have a lot of medicinal qualities,
a
right?
ton of
A
them,
lot
yeah.
of herbal remedies as well as sweeteners. I mean, you can make honey, tea, lemonade, you can make cough syrups, make topical stuff to help you. There's so much with dandelions, and it's the earth offering, right? We've said it how many times that the earth gives us what we need to survive.
Honestly, I've heard that so many times, and by not just like random people, but like people that actually know this kind of stuff. And they will say, look at what grows around you naturally. More than likely, there's something inside your body that you need from that plant. And like, if you live somewhere where you're always killing dandelions because they always just keep coming up and up and up and up, dandelions from the top of the flower to the roots
Right? You
or
have
there is
the
something in that flower, whether it's the roots, the stem, the milk, the whatever it
leaves.
is, they all do something differently that is could be like what we were saying earlier is medicinal. It means you need it. There's also different types of sage or different types of flowers, and it's the same thing. Exactly what you were just saying. So I'm glad you
Right.
brought that up.
And that's why I wanted to see what those white flowers were that have sprung up in so many different areas around
I've
town.
seen those before. Yeah. They're very pretty, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's
They're like
interesting.
four flower or four petal white
Mhm.
flower kind of thing. But yeah, so taking that offering, but now we have to show some sort of appreciation back. And it was kind of, I mean, you're walking by earlier and you're like, making this honey is gonna take, I mean, it's time consuming. It's
Yeah.
been hours and I'm pulling apart like the dandelion. Do I have to? No. Will it be bitter? More bitter? Yeah, it will be. It's not going to be bitter with the green off of it. But that's why it's so much easier to buy stuff in the store
Yeah.
because, like, and that's why I really like that homesteader that I follow too, Gaba Homesteading. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but she is really big on the woman staying at home, right? To protect the family, kind of lifestyle, whether you're, and I haven't seen a whole bunch, but I know she's really big on mom staying at home. But I would assume like a wife, a home caretaker,
Right.
because she's homesteading. You don't do that if you're working 12 hours, which is now mainstream,
Yeah.
12 hours to work,
Mhm.
and then you have to sleep for 8
Yeah. You have 4 hours to live, but then if you think about you're working for 12, you gotta think about if there's a
to get
commute,
up.
time to get ready, and then time to settle down
And
at the
if you're
end of the
working
night.
for 9, let's say it's just 12 total,
Yeah.
right? But it's just another thing. It takes time, but it's worth it. I mean, this could make several jars of honey. Do we go through jars of honey like it's anybody's business? No.
No.
But we're gonna have dry leaves for tea. We're gonna have like this and that. We're gonna have cough syrups. But also things aren't meant to last forever.
No.
Like how I told you, we've been cutting down a lot and how then finding cleaner ingredients, cleaner recipes. So we're cutting down on even more. We're
Mhm.
buying less and making more for ourselves and finding it not only cheaper, but it does taste better.
Yeah.
Like there are some things that I'm like, yeah, the processed sugar was the good part for sure. Like you can tell some food, I mean, like marshmallows. I didn't know that there were medicinal properties within natural, like whatever the one that she was
Mm.
showing. And I was like, wow,
Yeah, it's really
because
neat
all
to
it
think
is
about.
now is pure trash, pretty
Y
much. So we got some offerings today from the earth, and now we got to give back, this week too,
Mhm.
as well.
Right.
So, yeah, but we are going to offer something small today with intention, whether it's an object, time, or attention.
Mm.
Okay, so in a world where your attention is as valuable as money, in my mind, people's attention is as valuable as their money because it's being drawn in 1,000 different ways. Offering someone your undivided attention is an offering.
Yeah.
taking account of nature, paying attention to the earth's breathing, everything, that is an offering.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear sailors that know the storm's coming when it's clear skies, and the firefighters, right, that know that the flame's going to change directions, right? When you are observant, right?
Mhm.
And you are in this exchange of giving and taking and giving and taking. Because can I make dandelions to give the earth? No, I can't make them. And even if I could, what is that going to, why would the earth care? I'm giving it something that it's made better.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I can scientifically engineer to make a super dandelion.
Right.
It's not going to be better
No, it won't be. It's
because
not
it's
natural.
engineered, right? And you could say that we're engineered and stuff too.
Wow.
But you guys know what I mean, hopefully. Anyways, we're going to complete the journey today by returning gratitude in tangible form.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're going to return it in something tangible, right? Something you can hold, something you can feel, not just words, right? Something too is that hearing thank you is a beautiful thing. Telling people thank you all the time is beautiful. But what's important about something tangible is like sometimes we just have to show how we're grateful.
Yeah.
We don't need to say anything. We have to go out of our way and invest the time to show, to give something back more than just our words,
Mhm.
you know? So think about that today. Think about what do I give back already, right? Whether it's, there are so many things that it could be.
Mhm.
How you give back to your family, the people that matter, work if that's what matters, so many different areas that you can give back to. But think of how do I give back to this very thing that gives me life?
Right. With that, I was just wondering a couple things. One, happy anniversary, mom and dad.
You were
And
wondering?
well, no. Well, what I'm wondering about is your shirt. It seems off. I think the people want to know what's happening. And also happy birthday
Oh,
to your
yeah.
niece,
Yeah,
our niece, I guess. Yeah. So
if you're cool enough.
I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so happy anniversary. And what's that got? What you got going on over there in that little shirt thing?
As I was collecting my offerings, I wore clothes that I could get dirty. I just wore this. Oops, I don't even need to take that off. I had to cover it up, people. Shield your eyes. We're gonna have to do a disclaimer because of this. It's tough. It's hard to look at. I apologize in advance, but I had to use clothes that could be destroyed. It's just like kinda it's ugly and it's full of hate.
The dogs don't agree.
Yeah, they're getting fired up now because they're upset that I uncovered the shirt.
Is that what it was?
They're like, "Oh God, no!"
She did it.
Yeah, Molly yelled at me earlier because Molly's a Packer fan. When she saw this, she was like, that's how it sounds.
All right.
But
That was
yeah,
a lot of
happy
attitude for that cat.
anniversary.
Yes, happy anniversary,
Happy
happy birthday.
anniversary.
And
Happy
then if
birthday.
it's your birthday or anniversary on any other day that we do any of these podcasts, don't think that we don't care. We do. We
Shout it
just
to us so that we can
need to
see.
know. We'll give you high fives and hugs.
Well, don't shout it because I don't have the best hearing.
I cry
And I don't
too.
know
I'm
where you guys
sensitive.
are.
Yeah, that's true. Because if you're like way over there and I'm like right here and I'm inside and you're outside, I wouldn't hear you.
I'm already going to get enough yelling for wearing this shirt. So I just emotionally can't take it. We'll
You
see
know,
you
it's
guys.
funny. That was your choice, though.
Because I was going foraging.
On that note,
We're out of here.
see you guys. Love you.
You're Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1. The first hoʻokupu offering. Long ago, when the people of Hawaii traveled between islands by canoe and measured the seasons by the movements of the stars, fishing was more than a means of survival. The ocean fed families, connected communities, and carried travelers across vast distances. Because the sea provided so much, it was approached with gratitude and respect rather than taken for granted. In a village near the shoreline, a young fisherman prepared for his first journey beyond the protected waters of the bay. He had spent years learning from older fishermen who taught him how to read currents, recognize weather patterns, and understand the habits of fish. On the morning of his voyage, he joined the others at the water's edge before sunrise. The ocean lay calm beneath the sky painted with the first colors of dawn. Gentle waves rolled onto the shore while seabirds circled overhead. The village elders gathered beside the canoes and offered chants of blessing. They thanked the sea for its generosity and asked for safe passage upon the waters. The young fisherman listened carefully, knowing these traditions were as important as any skill he had learned. When the canoes pushed away from the shore, they traveled toward fishing grounds known to the community for generations. Throughout the morning, the fishermen worked together, lowering lines and nets into the water, the ocean rewarding their efforts, and before long they had caught enough fish to provide for many families. As the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, the elder leading the expedition selected the finest fish among the catch. The young fisherman assumed it would be saved for an important meal, but instead the elder carried it to the edge of the canoe. Speaking words of gratitude, he returned the fish to the sea. The young man watched in surprise. The offering seemed like a sacrifice, especially after a long day of labor. Seeing his confusion, the elder explained that receiving and giving were part of the same relationship. The ocean had provided abundance. Returning a portion in gratitude acknowledged that blessing and reminded the people not to become greedy. When they returned to shore, the catch was shared among the village. Families gathered for a meal, and stories were exchanged as evening settled across the coast. The young fisherman thought often about the fish returned to the sea. He began to understand that the offering had never been about loss, it had been about gratitude. Years later, after becoming an elder himself, he continued the tradition. Whenever young fishermen joined their first voyage, he told them the story of the offering and the lesson hidden within it. The sea gave life, but gratitude completed the exchange. In this way, the practice endured, carried from one generation to the next like a gift entrusted to careful hands. Story 2. The Lares of the Household. In ancient Rome, every household possessed a sacred corner where small figures stood watch over the family. These spirits were known as the Lares, guardians of the home whose presence connected generations of the living with those who had come before. Whether a family lived in a grand villa or a modest dwelling, offerings were often made to the Lares in gratitude for protection and prosperity. In one Roman household, 3 generations shared the same home. The grandfather had inherited the family shrine from his father, who had inherited it from his own. Near the hearth stood a small altar where the figures of the Lares watched over daily life. Each morning the family passed by the shrine as they began their work, and each evening they gathered again beneath its gaze. One autumn, after a successful harvest, preparations began for a feast celebrating the season's abundance. Baskets of grain filled the storerooms. Olive oil had been pressed, and jars of preserved food lined the shelves. The family understood that fortune could not be taken for granted. Good years followed difficult years, and prosperity often depended upon blessings beyond human control. As sunset approached, on the evening of the feast, the grandfather called the family together. Before anyone sat down to eat, they gathered before the household shrine. Lamps were lit, casting warm golden light across the small figures. The aroma of fresh bread and roasted food drifted through the room while the youngest children watched quietly. The grandfather placed a portion of bread upon the altar. Next came a small offering of wine poured carefully into a shallow vessel. These gifts were not given because the spirits required food or drink. Rather, the offerings served as expressions of gratitude. They acknowledged the protection the family believed they had received throughout the year and honored the generations whose memory remained part of the household. After the offerings were made, the family shared stories of parents, grandparents, and relatives no longer living. Children listened as elders described events from years past. The household felt larger than those physically present around the table. Through memory and tradition, the ancestors remained connected to the family gathering. Only then did the feast begin. Laughter filled the home as relatives ate together and celebrated the harvest. The offerings had transformed the meal into something greater than a simple feast. They reminded everyone that abundance carried responsibility and that gratitude strengthened the bonds between past, present, and future. As the years passed, children grew into adults and eventually became guardians of the shrine themselves. Though generations changed, the custom endured. A small portion was always set aside before a celebration began. In this way, gratitude remained woven into the life of the household, and the Lares continued their watch over the family they were believed to protect. Story 3: The Shrine Offering. At the foot of a forested mountain stood a small Shinto shrine. Tall cedar trees surrounded the sacred grounds, their branches whispering softly wherever the wind passed through them. A stone pathway led visitors through a torii gate and toward the shrine building itself, where generations had come to offer prayers, gratitude, and respect to the kami who were believed to dwell within the natural world. In a nearby village lived a young farmer whose family had cultivated the same fields for many years. The harvest season had finally arrived after months of labor. Spring planting, summer tending, and long days beneath the sun had yielded a crop of exceptional quality. Golden rice filled the paddies, and the village celebrated the abundance that had come from the earth. As preparations for the harvest festival began, the farmer's father instructed him to select the finest portion of their crop. The young man carefully gathered the best stalks he could find, binding them together with great care. Looking at the beautiful grain, he wondered why the family would part with something so valuable when it could help sustain them through the coming months. Early the next morning, before most villagers had awakened, father and son carried the offering toward the shrine. Dew clung to the grass, and mist drifted among the cedar trunks. The forest felt quiet and alive at the same time. Birds called from distant branches, while sunlight slowly filtered through the trees. Upon reaching the shrine, they approached the offering hall. The father placed the rice before the sacred space and bowed deeply. The son followed his example. For several moments, neither spoke. The silence itself seemed to be part of the ritual. As they turned to leave, the young farmer finally asked why they offered the finest part of the harvest instead of keeping it for themselves. His father smiled and looked back toward the shrine. "The offering is not payment," he explained. "The earth does not sell us its blessings. The rain does not demand a price. We give because gratitude must be expressed if it is to remain alive." The young man considered those words throughout the festival. Everywhere he looked, people celebrated the harvest. Families shared meals, neighbors exchanged gifts, and songs echoed through the village. Gradually, he understood that the offering represented more than a bundle of rice. It acknowledged the countless gifts that had made the harvest possible: fertile soil, clean water, favorable weather, and the efforts of many hands. Years later, after his father had grown old, the young farmer continued the tradition himself. Each harvest season, he selected the finest portions of his crop and carried it to the shrine. The act reminded him that gratitude was not something felt only in the heart, it was something practiced through action. Thus, the custom endured from one generation to the next. The offering completed the cycle of receiving and giving, ensuring that abundance was met not with entitlement, but with appreciation. Story 4: The Ancestors' Cup. In a village surrounded by forests and fertile farmland, preparations were underway for an important gathering. Families traveled from neighboring communities, bringing gifts, food, and stories. Elders dressed in fine cloth took their places beneath shaded meeting areas, while children ran between houses carrying messages and helping with the day's preparations. At the center of the celebration stood a respected elder whose responsibility was to lead the ancestral libation. Before any important meeting, ceremony, or festival could begin, gratitude had to be offered to those who had come before. The living did not stand alone. They walked a path shaped by generations of ancestors whose wisdom, sacrifices, and guidance continued to influence the community. As the sun climbed higher, villagers gathered together in a large circle. The elders stepped forward carrying a carved vessel filled with palm wine. Conversation gradually faded until silence settled over the assembly. Holding the vessel carefully, the elder began speaking the names of ancestors remembered by the community. He recalled leaders who had guided the people through hardship, parents who had raised families, and elders whose wisdom still lived within the stories passed down through generations. As each name was spoken, listeners nodded in recognition. Then the elder poured a small portion of the drink onto the earth. The liquid disappeared into the soil, and the elder offered words of thanks. He asked for wisdom, unity, health, and guidance. His voice carried steadily across the gathering, reminding everyone present that gratitude connected the living to both the past and the future. A young boy standing near the front watched with curiosity. The offering seemed unusual to him. After the ceremony concluded, he approached his grandmother and asked why the drink had been poured onto the ground instead of shared among the people. His grandmother smiled and gestured toward the village around them. Families laughed together. Elders exchanged stories. Children played beneath the trees. "We enjoy these blessings because others came before us," she said. "The libation reminds us to remember that truth." The boy thought about her answer throughout the day. He listened more carefully as stories were told. He noticed how often elders spoke of parents, grandparents, and teachers, whose influence remained long after their passing. Gradually, he realized that the offering was not about the drink itself, it was about gratitude. Years later, the boy became an elder. Standing before a new generation, he held the ceremonial vessel just as others had before him. As he poured the libation onto the earth, he remembered the lesson he had learned as a child. The offering connected past, present, and future through a simple act of remembrance. Thus, the tradition endured. With each gathering, the ancestors were honored, gratitude was renewed, and the journey of the community continued forward, strengthened by those who had walked before. Daily Thread for June 28th, The Offering. Many journeys begin with receiving. We receive guidance, opportunities, resources, love, knowledge, protection, and countless gifts we do not create entirely on our own. Yet ancient traditions often taught that a journey remains incomplete until something is given in return. Offerings appear in many forms across cultures. Some were poured upon the earth, some were returned to the sea, and some were given through service, generosity, or remembrance. The value of an offering was rarely measured by its size. Instead, it was measured by the intention behind it. To offer something willingly is to acknowledge that life is built upon relationships rather than possession. Gratitude transforms what might otherwise be taken for granted into something recognized and appreciated. The Roman families setting aside a portion of their feast, the farmer carrying the finest harvest to the shrine, the elder pouring libation for ancestors, and the fisherman returning part of his catch to the sea, all express the same underlying truth. Abundance is healthiest when accompanied by thankfulness. Across centuries and continents, people understood that receiving without gratitude can lead to entitlement. While gratitude naturally inspires generosity, an offering does not diminish what we possess. Often, it deepens our awareness of what has already been given. The old stories remind us that every blessing carries an invitation to respond. Sometimes that response takes the form of a gift. Sometimes it appears as kindness, stewardship, remembrance, or service. Whatever form it takes, giving back completes the cycle that began long before us and will continue long after us. The question is not whether we have received something worth honoring. The question is how we choose to answer it.